a major thing for us that we learned: keeping the peace in a relationship does not mean your relationship is doing well. There's this tendency to want to avoid conflict or avoid fighting or avoid sharing something might be uncomfortable. And we were both miserable when we were in peacekeeping mode. And so we are so much more honest and open with each other, and learning to live with just a little bit of uncomfortableness has enabled us to connect to each other on a deeper level. It's more fun. And you never feel like you're walking on eggshells around your partner. So that sort of deep level of honesty and acceptance, I think, is beautiful in our relationship.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from across the entire spectrum of non-monogamy to hear their fascinating stories. We strive to bring guests on the show who have a healthy approach to non-monogamy. However, it's important to remember that everyone does it a little bit differently, and the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we produce this show for entertainment purposes only. Please be aware that we aren't doctors or therapists. Consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Well, welcome to episode 147. We're Finn and Emma, and today we are talking with Sophie and Brandon. Right? Don't look at me like that.
I can look at you however I want to. Yeah, no, this is... and we say this all the time, but this is truly an amazing discussion.
As always.
Discussion. So they've been married for 4 years, open for most of them. Mm-hmm. They're both in their second marriages. And honestly, like the way that they have navigated through this and the way that they discuss this is incredible.
Powerful.
It hasn't been an easy road, but I think... like hearing the way that they talk through and discuss this is super powerful, as you said. So we're really, really excited about this. And thank you to both of you, Sophie and Brandon, for sharing your story with us.
And reaching out.
Yeah.
In the first place.
Absolutely.
Okay, a few quick announcements as normal. Our first one is, if you're listening to this on September 30th, the day it comes out, tonight is our next Patreon Q&A. We have one at 9 p.m. Eastern and again at 9 p.m. Pacific. And if you missed this one, don't worry, there'll be another one in October. Yeah,
and if you're not familiar, what Emma's talking about is Patreon is a platform used to help support creators all over the globe. And we have grown a community there, over 100 strong, and it's just a great community, honestly. We do various different things. So if you want to learn more about that, head over to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, and just click on the Patreon tab or the community tab, either one, and you can learn about all of the amazing things we're doing. So thank you to all of you amazing Patreon supporters.
And we're excited to see you tonight.
Yes.
The last really quick thing I want to say about Patreon is that we also do a women's call, and a women's group as part of that. And our next call is going to be on October 14th. So I just wanted to throw that date out there for anyone who's planning on attending.
Yeah. We do also do some meet and greet stuff. We're not going to talk very much about it because actually Sophie and Brandon brag about it for us in the episode, but we will just say that the date for the next one is October 16th. Those are super awesome, and they are $10.
Just to be clear,
they're open to everybody.
Yeah, they're separate from our Patreon group, so they're open to everyone, just $10 to join. And again, more information on our website.
Yep, under the meet and greet tab.
Yeah.
And then we just wanted to say a quick, huge thank you to our sponsor for today's episode, Alt Playground. Emma, who is Alt Playground?
Alt Playground is a sexy and fun dating website to go meet other people. Open-minded,
non-monogamous, exploring types. You don't have to be, but you got to be open-minded.
You got to be open-minded for sure.
Yeah, it's awesome. We use it, and we have met some pretty cool people on there as well, virtually for now. Hey,
yes.
Speaking of meeting them virtually, they have a way you can do video chats.
Yes, they have a really cool video chat feature, and you don't have to worry about getting your account shut down like Zoom.
If you're, be a little more specific. If you're being
a little explicit,
yeah.
That's I should say.
We don't do that. I cover everything all the time, but I've heard other people do and have had issues.
Exactly. If you want an explicit video chat, this is a great way to do it.
And it is safe and secure. They take a lot of steps to keep everybody's privacy and information secure. So check them out. Head over to our website or just go straight to their website, altplayground.net, to learn more, sign up, check it out, and get video chatting explicitly.
Yeah. And if you're thinking about going to meet people in person again, one thing you know that we stress on the show is the importance of sexual health and safety. One piece of that is knowing your STI status. We do this by using stdcheck.com. It is a super easy and secure, discreet way to get tested for STIs. And you can use the links on our webpage for $10 off your panel and also supports the show.
Yep, and we're not going to talk too much more about it here because Sophie and Brandon plug it in the episode, but head over to normalizingnonmonogamy.com, click on the resources tab, and you will see all of the information on how to use the service. And again, we love it, and we think you will as well.
Yes.
And with that, we're going to jump into the episode here. A couple of quick things about this transition. It's going to start with Emma laughing.
Always.
We can't tell you what we were laughing about because we don't really remember.
We don't remember.
and well, because it got edited out. So I do kind of remember, but it was funny. So if you want to be part of it, you start laughing now.
Like last week.
Yeah, just like last
Similar
week.
to
Yeah,
last
just start
week.
laughing, and we're going to just roll right into it.
Ready, fire, aim.
Ready, fire, aim, yeah.
As you'll see, a theme throughout the
So
episode.
start laughing now, and we'll see you in the outro.
It's all good. Well, ready?
Ready.
Well, welcome so much. Welcome so
Welcome
much.
so much.
Welcome so much.
welcome.
No. Well, welcome, Sophie and Brandon, to the show. We're super excited that you're here tonight, and we can't wait to learn a little bit more about you. Maybe can we start there? Who are Sophie and Brandon?
Sure. So I'm Sophie. I'm 36. We are married. We've been married almost 4 years. This is a second marriage for both of us. I consider myself bisexual or some sort of multisexual. I don't know. I don't know if I like bisexual, but I certainly like more than one gender. I like a lot of people. I'm person sexual.
People sexual.
Yeah. So, we've been married about 4 years, been officially, intentionally non-monogamous for about 3 years. No kids. Who are you?
And I'm Brandon. I'm 37, and we're from the upper Midwest. And we've been non-monogamous intentionally for about 3 years, doing the work to make it work.
Instead of all the accidental non-monogamy that
I was
took place.
gonna say.
Yeah.
I was going to say you said it twice now that you're intentionally non-monogamous. So that leads us to believe there was some unintentional non-monogamy that
Crept in.
And maybe, do you mind taking us back in time, maybe even before that, to either of you? Had you explored this in previous relationships, previous marriages before you came together?
Yeah, I had not. I had dated multiple people at the same time, but very casually. And I had, dated a woman in college, but my first marriage was strictly monogamous. And but towards the end of that marriage, I did see if he was interested in opening it up in any way, and he was not. But so I was not, and we talked about it at the beginning of our relationship, but it wasn't anything we did on purpose early on. How about you?
I had a little bit of experience with a previous partner, but it was one of those situations that you can be a warning or an example to people. And I think that the way we went about it was a warning because we didn't do a lot of the communication and the things that are necessary to make it work. And so it kind of blew up in our face. And so that made me a little gun shy when we started to be in some of the situations that were going to lead us down that path, because I definitely didn't want to have that blow up in my face again.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing you say is you had some non-monogamy done to you.
Yeah, I say I was an unwilling participant in non-monogamy as it was done towards me, so in the form of infidelity. And so that was also a piece of the puzzle that I've had to deal with regards to having a partner with other people and some of the inner work that has to get done with that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the accidental stuff at the beginning of our relationship was fun and terrifying. And it would look like my friend would come over and we would have just a little bit too much to drink and we would start kissing, and then all three of us would end up in bed together. And we were so bad at non-monogamy. We didn't talk about it with her. We didn't talk about it with each other. It was like this thing that would happen, these flukes. And then we would maybe fight or maybe pretend like nothing ever happened. And it was bad. We were not good at it. We were not doing it right. And my friend and I had to have one of those big conversations at one point because we were all ignoring it so hard that it just had to come to light. And so we agreed to not do that anymore and just go back to being friends. And we're still excellent friends. But that would happen over and over. Oh, maybe we should say one of the first times we went out in a group of friends before we started dating, we found out that over the course of the night, we kissed the same girl independently. And Brandon and I weren't dating yet.
At the bar. So that was, we all got in our bus that we'd all taken to the place, and we were all sharing our stories. And this is a very particular person that everybody kind of knew, since she stood out.
Because she's wearing snow pants at the bar.
Snow pants at the bar. So that should tell you what part of the country we're in. And so, we were talking about Snow Pants Girl. And she was like, I kissed her. And I was like, I just kissed her.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of our little inside joke that Sharon since the beginning, I guess.
Even the first night we got together, like I had kissed dozens of people beforehand, and you had kissed somebody beforehand, but it didn't matter.
So you two were both fairly exploratory, adventurous sexually, and not in a negative way. I'm not like trying to like bash you for anything.
Slutty. Yeah.
But in the best way possible.
That's
of course.
Right.
So this conversation, when it came up between the two of you, I guess you started having these accidental threesomes with your roommate. When you shut that down, what happened between the two of you? Did you just not talk about it, or how did it transition back into like a conversation that was...
Well, and to be clear, like when you first started dating, there was no conversation about it whatsoever. And so like these accidental things that happened, and then you shut it down and then move forward. Like that's correct?
Yeah. So this sounds a little disjointed. So these things would pop up and happen, but you're right. We were not having the conversation about the possibility of non-monogamy or open relationships. These were just one-off things that happened. When I found out about his past with a previous partner, I was in awe. I wanted to hear all the stories. And I secretly really enjoyed that it always ended up in a huge fight for them, because it was like a clear boundary for our relationship then. Like there's danger over there. Whatever, if we go that way, it cannot be done in the same way that you guys did it before. But within like a week of dating, we took one of those online quizzes where you each take a quiz and then it sends your results to each other if you both say you're into the same things. And I distinctly remember threesomes and things like that being on there, and we had both marked that we would be interested in that, but we still didn't have a conversation about it.
Right. Well, and maybe just if you're willing to talk a little bit about it, Brandon, like so Sophie referenced that like she knew how not to approach it. Was there something very distinct about, or some very like some good warning signs that like, if we want to try this, here's how not to do it?
I think it's worth, a lot of the things that we see people doing and that we did was like, you're trying to simultaneously open up, but have these really, really almost impossible boundaries, and some things you can't predict, some things you can't control, and to try and control all those things is really a recipe for disaster. And to not talk about what the negative side of it could be. So what happens if one person gets uncomfortable? What happens when one person gets jealous? So we had an instance, myself and a former partner, where she got really overwhelmed and she didn't know how to do it. she didn't know how to deal with it, or we didn't talk about what, a safe word or anything like that. And so she imploded, and we had to basically leave this get together in a huff. And it was all because we just never talked about, we were in an instance where we were separated from each other, and then someone was coming on to someone else, and then someone else came back. And so it's a lot of those things. And I think part of the benefit of talking about it is you get to, it's like war games. You're planning, like, here's all the possible scenarios that could happen. And if this happens, like, this is what we might do. And if this happens, this is what we might do. And so that really helped to do a lot of that talking beforehand. Because when we get to that point, you're like, okay, we planned for this. And
I would say the red flags that I heard from your stories were way too much drinking, left everybody kind of volatile. And like he said, really rigid rules. If you try to say you can only touch other people in this way or relate to other people in this way, or I can do this, but I don't want you doing that same thing, without talking about all the whys and the emotions and things behind it, you are leaving just a minefield. And nobody's having fun when you're trying to step around all of those potential explosions. That's what I heard. I was like, oh God, you can't have too many rules. You can't try to tell your other partner or control the third party or the third or fourth people if you're bringing them in. If you try to say you have to relate to this unknown person in only this certain way, you are not considering those extra people as people. You're just saying
they're a pawn in your game.
Yeah,
right?
you're an accessory.
Well, and it's you talked a little bit about we had the war games analogy, but it's almost like a flow chart. Like, all right, if person A touches person B like this, then you go to this next step. If they touched them like this, you branch over and you have all of these flow charts. But the problem is, if somebody doesn't touch or say or do one of the things in the flow chart, and there's not a result for that, the whole system falls apart. And it sounds like that was where you got into, which was like, we've thought through every scenario possible and you missed one. And that was the one that happened. And that's when the system broke down. Right.
Yeah.
And okay. Wow.
And if we know anything about people, that you're going to miss one.
Yeah. And everyone's unpredictable. And you didn't factor, again, you could make all of your plans, right? But you didn't necessarily factor in how are they going to react? How are these other people going to react? And it's impossible to do.
Oh, yeah, you can't do that.
So how did you two come back to it and start to approach it again after the accidental threesomes, which it sounds like more or less went off without a hitch, other than
you didn't talk about them?
A little bit of drinking and pretending it wasn't happening.
Yeah.
I would say
there was one other step I think that was important. That's kind of mine to own up to, which was when we were still engaged before we got married, I was the unfaithful one in the relationship, and I stepped outside the relationship, which just sort of destroyed our relationship as we knew it and sent us into therapy. It was kind of dangerous spot for our relationship. We could have easily not come through that. And it was because we weren't communicating, and I made a big mistake. And we had to start over from there. And I would say after that, after we got through therapy and the initial sort of emergency period, that's when we actually started having some decent conversations about, well, wait a second, what do we want our relationship to look like?
Yeah, we learned about a lot of things, like meta emotions. So I know like jealousy is a big topic within the community, and how jealousy, it's not necessarily jealousy itself. Like there's usually something beyond that, like a fear or an insecurity. And so learning about all these like higher level communication topics, we're able to talk about what we wanted, what we hope to get out of the relationship, to be an active listener with your partner, and to, understand what they're trying to say without just holding your breath, waiting to respond. And so that really gave us some space to rebuild it. And the sexual piece was always there. We just had to figure out how to reincorporate it, and learning about, why that happened with her is that, we weren't communicating well and she was feeling some neglect. And so for me, it was like, I had been cheated on in previous relationships. And so like that had always been kind of like a scarlet letter for me, for myself. But me able to go through this and like go through the hard part and realize it didn't have anything to do with the other person or anything else. Like we're able to understand the bigger issues. And so that's been like huge for us within our whole journey here. It's the bigger issues beyond like the immediate reactions that we have.
Yeah. I think fundamentally we both agreed that we would like to be in a place where we could sleep with other people. That, after that, we agreed that was probable and possible. And we started to, like he said, actually listen to each other and accept what the other person was saying. And then realizing that we could say things and there wasn't this horrible reaction on our partner's side. That was really, really big. So how we actually started getting back into this intentionally then was for our 1-year wedding anniversary. I threw out to my girlfriends that I was thinking about planning a threesome for our 1-year wedding anniversary, and intentionally planning and talking about it. And one of my friends sent me a text and said, "Hey, if you are serious about that, I would be down. My husband's interested in the thought of me with other people. So if you're serious, let's do it." So we planned it and talked about it beforehand, extensively talked about it.
Yeah, I didn't want to surprise.
That was going to be my question, because you're coming off of the fidelity, and then you're like, I think the best road to recovery here is a surprise threesome for my husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, I debated making it a surprise, and I was like, oh, wait, I remember minefields. Maybe we disarm some of those beforehand.
Hey, it's still a surprise. The surprise doesn't happen on the day.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which turned out to be a really good idea for your anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did that go?
It went really well.
Amazing.
It went really well.
Yeah.
And we're still friends with them to this day. So there wasn't some big blow up between us. There wasn't some big blow up between the other people. And so like it was somebody we knew. They were already consensual. We talked about it beforehand. We talked about it afterwards. And so like there's this whole different dynamic that happened pre, during, and after, and post, which made it like a way different experience. And it gave us like a big breath of fresh air that,
and the
all
sex
right, we
fun.
can do this.
Yeah. Well, and not to maybe not dwell on it, but I think the infidelity piece is like, that's a huge thing for somebody to overcome in a relationship. And you're by far not the first people we've talked to that have overcome that obstacle and then wound up in some type of non-monogamous relationship. And I guess if you'd be willing to talk a little more about like you coming through that, disclosing it to Brandon, and then Brandon like being able to reconcile that back around when she brings up like, hey, I now want to have a threesome, or I'm interested in sex outside our marriage again. Like that could be very triggering and pulling back on all of those like things that you had just worked through,
anxieties,
on the
Mm-hmm.
on the deception side of it. And you mentioned your anxiety as well, and I can't imagine that didn't play in very easily either.
It was tough, but I think, the thing that I guess helped me out the most was realizing like 98% of it had zero to do with the sex piece of it. And really with a lot of this, a lot of it doesn't have to do with the sex part. You go to a party and everything else, like what do you, if you're lucky, you're getting it on for, 20 minutes or an hour. But if you're at a 5-hour party, most of your time is not doing that. So
I was waiting to see how long you were going to say the sex was lasting for out of a night out. But
I had to think of like what's long enough to make it sound cool,
plausible. Yeah. Cool.
but not short enough to say I'm not ever going to approach them. This is worth my time.
Yeah, it lasts 6 to 7 seconds out of the whole night, and you're
6
done.
seconds to 18 hours, somewhere in that range. Just shake the Yahtzee dice, and that's what we do.
That's a good range.
Yeah, and I think, and maybe what you were saying too about when you said originally it wasn't about the sex, being that like your issue with the infidelity wasn't that she had sex with somebody else. It was the lie, the deception, the fact that the secrecy, but like the act itself wasn't the problem because you had done that before together. You know, whether it was a man or a woman or whatever person it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't the act itself. It was everything behind it.
Yeah, we'd already had part of the undoing of monogamy is realizing that like your partner is not the only thing in your world that gives you everything you need, and
it's impossible to ask of one person for them to give you everything you need.
Yeah, and if it's not the end of the world. And so if something like that happens, like that background has really served us, because now if we do have a misstep or one of us makes a mistake or something that's, not on our flow chart, we know that like it's not the end of the world. And in monogamy, it's like if your partner cheats on you, like that since you're bound at the hip, like that's a reflection of who you are as a person. And we've been trying to like peel off some of those layers of like the expectations of self and partner. And I think that just peeled off a lot of layers at once.
But to Finn's point, we wouldn't have survived that probably if I hadn't owned up to it instantly, because it was more about honesty and betrayal and those big ideas in a relationship. So if it had been something ongoing that I was hiding, I'm not sure that we would have been able to survive that. It would have been a lot harder. Yeah.
Let's not find out.
Yeah, let's not. Deal.
Yeah. Well, now there's no reason to hide it, right? And I guess maybe so you have the birthday threesome, the pseudo anniversary pseudo surprise threesome.
Yeah.
How do things develop from there?
Oh, that's where it gets interesting.
So we talked about how to get into non-monogamy, and we weren't sure, and I didn't necessarily want to go back to those old resources because I felt like I needed to start fresh with her. And we weren't on any websites. We weren't on anything. And we'd actually gone and stayed at a resort in Mexico that happened to be right next door to Desire. And we did not know it. So it's Excellence. If there's anybody from Excellence, we'll take any sort of plug that you want to give us. But we were there and we walked past and we were like, what is that? And we would look inside and we would see people on the cabanas outside and on the hammocks. And then we met a couple who every year they went and stayed the first half at the resort we were at because it was better food and the service they thought was better. And they thought it was just like a nicer all around resort. And then they spend the last half of their vacation over at Desire. And so we got to just sit down at the swim-up bar with them and spend the entire day with them. And they talked to us about it and
plied us with tequila.
Yeah. So before we went on this vacation, we had packed these itty bitty. So this vacation took place way before we got married or anything. And one day during this vacation, we had planned to wear these tiny little swimsuits. And so when we were in the course of talking to this couple, at one point we went and changed into our micro swimsuits and felt like we were getting crazy and wild, and ended up in the hot tub with them that night. And she and I both ended up taking our tops off at this, not supposed to be this kind of resort. She's like, yeah, feel my fake boobs. They're amazing. You should feel them. And so I'm feeling her boobs, and then Brandon reaches over like he's testing out a mattress, and he's so awkward. He's looking at me. Flat hand, no more than 1 second. Don't stop it. Just, real nice. Like I'm testing in a mattress. So awkward. I did not know how to do it. I was like, my wife's in here.
So they
like
were
you
like,
can relate to that.
I was gonna interrupt you for 2 seconds because the first time that this actually happened to me as well. Our very first party that we ever went to was in Australia, and the woman, one of the few women that like was there for the meet and greet portion of the meet and greet, was like, "Yeah, I got brand new boobs. You guys want to feel them?" And I was sort of that like honk honk, like I didn't know what to do. I'm just like, I don't know. I've only touched like 3 of these in my whole life, so this is like, I'm really,
I
really
didn't know
Yeah. The other weird one is go up from the bottom and just like how much does it weigh?
yeah.
Like,
bountiful harvest.
yeah, just
this
the
year.
worst. Just the worst. They need to teach that in sex ed. Like, how do you not be a weird when you're touching a boob?
Right, exactly. Well, so to clarify this conversation, this event, you going to the resort next to Desire happened before you were married, before the infidelity, before everything.
Yeah. So our whole point there, because I had forgotten about that, but that planted the seed in our mind. So maybe pick up the story. So after our 1-year anniversary,
we started to look at doing a nudist kind of vacation or whatever. And I was looking on the internet and I came across hedonism. And then I found the Young Swingers Week, and awkward me, just like the boob touching incident. I said, "Hey, I was looking up vacations and there's this place. You want to look it up? I'm going to go to Home Depot." And then I just 86th, I just left the house. I was like, I can't believe I just brought this up. She's totally going to think I'm a weirdo. And I came back like an hour later after my heart had returned to a normal resting heart rate. And she had the book now page up, and her mouse was hovering over the book now. And she's just like, "Are we doing this or not? Because if we don't do it now, we're not going to do it." And I said, sure. And she clicked it. And that's how we ended up at our first jump in the deep end, I guess.
I was like, you just dove right in.
Yeah.
So if that was confusing for people, that's how we knew about places like hedonism, was that way back ancient vacation where we stayed next to Desire adjacent. So we knew they existed. And so after our planned threesome, that was like the first thing that came to mind, because we knew about it.
Right.
And it was something different than how Brandon had approached it in the past.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we were like, we can probably blend into some anonymity there if we want to. Like, we wouldn't feel like we have to do anything.
And so how did the trip go?
Well, before that, so we're not on any sites and we're not doing anything. So the friend that we'd had the planned threesome with, they came to our house for a party, and a bunch of people were at our house. We did have a full swap before we went to Hedo. But that was my point. Yeah, because they stayed over at our house, and they texted us from the basement saying, "Hey, we're still awake downstairs if you guys want to come downstairs and hang out." So we went downstairs, and that was so at least we'd gotten the full swap out of the way before we went to hedonism.
Yeah, and
which isn't a prerequisite.
Like, no. Oblivious me was like, "Why are they texting us to hang out? It's like 12:30. Like, we're all in bed." And she's like, "You idiot. Just..."
She wants you to patty cake her boob.
Yeah. Well, so hold on. This is you kind of were glossing over this incident like it was nothing, but this would be the first time that you are now venturing into sex with another couple that's not another woman. That is, I mean, this is another level on top of everything that you've had in your history. So and you made this spur of the moment decision at 12:30 in the morning to go wing it. I mean, how did it go?
Went great.
Yeah, it went. It went well. I think we did it. Yeah, we've done a lot of the groundwork, so now we have the ability to wing it. And
but not at that point. We still didn't really know what we were doing at that point. But it went great, and we went out to brunch the next day and had a great time.
That's awesome. And I think it sounds like all of you had at least the skills to talk about it afterward and like just not sweep it under the rug.
Yeah, we had some comfort with her because we'd been with her and we knew her husband was cool because we had talked to him before before we invited her to come with us. So yeah, there was a level of comfort there.
And so you felt like you had the required amount of experience then to go to Jamaica to heat up.
To at least survive. Yeah. We didn't have anything that we were like dead set on doing. We're just like, we could probably just like make it through this week being around a bunch of naked people.
Probably.
So, did you survive?
We survived. We got there. Luckily, one of the people there is an owner of a club in Canada. And so he's well-versed in the lifestyle. And so he kind of took us under his wing.
We met him by accident.
Yeah. And then
because he had snow pants on. He was the guy,
right?
snow pants guy. Right?
Snow pants really get our engines revving.
Jamaica.
And that year, Holly and Michael from the swing show on Playboy, they were there too. So got to talk with them. And so it was really nice to have like an atmosphere of some experienced people that even though you're in a super sexually charged atmosphere, you're still able to like talk about some of the things that are going on and or not go 0 to 60.
Except we did.
Except we went 0 to 60. Yeah, the first night we were like, we're just gonna hang out and chill out, and then at the end of the night we ended up in like a 6-8 person pile.
Yeah, which was fun. Yeah, I think we had a great time, and we kind of figured it out, all the people's relationship styles. And there was one night where we got in a fight, and we kind of ghosted on the people we were heading to the playroom with. And this is where I think we discovered our resilience in non-monogamy, right? Because we got into a fight. We were really embarrassed that we ghosted on these people. And so the next morning we were embarrassed. We're like, how are we going to face them? This is really embarrassing. So we decided to just own it and walk up to them and say, oh, sorry about that. We weren't getting along and we're really sorry about that. And instantly they were like, oh, it happens to everybody. We're so glad you guys are doing well now. Yeah, do you want to talk about it or shall we go get a drink? And it was amazing to be around people who were like, oh, one bad event is not relationship ending. It's not relationship damaging even. It's part of exploring this. And that's when we were like, okay, yeah, we can do this. These are our people.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting. There might be people listening that are like, everything for you is like 0 to 60. Like you said, like we showed up, we're just going to hang out and be naked by the pool for a week. And then like the first night you're in an orgy. So like, I think maybe just understanding a little more how you're able to do that, because it sounds like you've done it repeatedly. Like you made the decision at 1:30 or 12:30 in the morning to head down to the basement and go have a full swap situation when you had no prior like groundwork for it. So I mean, just I'm trying to understand that a little better would maybe be useful.
I think my fundamental philosophy is we have one life. It's very short, and I never want to do anything just because it's expected of me or just because it's the story I've been sold. So when a choose your own adventure book opens up to a page where it's like, would you like to go down this path that's well trodden, or would you like to jump off this cliff and see what's at the bottom of it? I'm probably going to jump off the cliff.
Make sure there's water at the bottom, not just.
He's down there testing the depth and checking for rocks and.
Exactly.
What about you?
It's trusting the other person and kind of having this foundation of like, this is a person I trust and they've given me the ability to go and do some things. And I think you had a past guest that talked about disintegration. And so we talked about kind of, instead of just solely being a unit of two, like we're two individual people and we're both trying to help each other get the most out of it. And if we're both being the brakes to each other all of the time, then all we're doing is limiting the other person out of our own fears and insecurities. And that's not really fair to them, even if it makes us feel safe. So you have to let go a little bit of like what your stuff is in order to let your partner really live more fully.
I think there's a good point you made in there too, is that at the baseline of this is this fundamental agreement that we can get mad at each other. We can really mess up. We can do something that really hurts the other person accidentally, not on purpose, right? And that's not going to end our relationship. So there is safety there, right? And I think actually that was a lesson from infidelity. Like, we can go through something that's really painful and bad and shouldn't have happened, and it's not relationship ending. And that layer of safety makes it a lot easier to explore, I think.
Yeah. And to just kind of go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've got somewhere to always come back to, so you can leave the nest and it's okay.
Yeah. Well, I think something that, and I don't want to paint both of you with like this huge broad brush, but
go ahead.
You're going to anyway.
Here it comes. Buckle up. No, that, we get emails from people a lot of the times, or people describe themselves like, I'm the gas, they're the brake. I'm the gas, she's the brake. I'm the gas, he's the brake, whatever the dynamic is.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like in your situation, Sophie's the gas, and Brandon, you're not necessarily the brake, but you're like we can hit the gas, but like, let's put our seatbelts on. Let's maybe check the surroundings.
Yeah,
let's do a 20
fifth gear and I'm first gear. it's a lot of rev, but moving slow.
and I think that's fantastic. And I think, but like, your sort of approach to it is like, yes, my instinct says be the brake, but my brain says like, I can't always be the brake. Like, we have to explore. She needs something that this is something that she needs to try, or I don't want her to be limited because of my braking. And that you found a way for the two of you to like be the gas and the brake and explore and keep everybody happy and safe for the most part.
Yeah, you have to work on your own stuff. And I think a lot of people just focus on like the interpersonal dynamic of like what's going on between you. But like what's going on within you is just important if it's not more important. And I think I would attribute one of that for me is like I joined a men's group like 2 or 3 years ago, like a non-religious. There's no affiliation, but it's just a bunch of guys that like get together and we just have this safe space where we can talk about like things that are bothering us and feelings, and like you create this intimacy where you can express kind of what's going on. And as guys, sometimes we have a hard time doing that with our partners, and we don't have a lot of those non-sexual relationships to really work through that stuff. And I can't expect her to always be my sounding board and to help me deal with my stuff. So that was really helpful for me to not have to rely on her to do that work for me, and then also to give me some security around her being her own person as well too.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that.
And I think it's just so important. So if you don't figure out your own shit, it's really going to be hard to figure out your shit together, right?
Yeah.
And
then you got two other people at least, and then it's like their interpersonal shit and then their individual shit. I think that we figured out that's why like the 4-way dynamic is hard, because it's not just, 1 and 1. It's like 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's like 8 different things that have to happen. And so
it's like Jurassic Park, that giant pile of Stegosaurus shit, right? Like you get everybody together, it's a big pile.
Everybody's
of shit.
Small piles of poop. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, thank you for sharing. And then you come home from Jamaica. You've now had orgies. You've figured out that you can fight and admit it to other people, and that's a winning strategy, which kudos to you. Mm-hmm. Where does this adventure take you to from there?
We instantly got on all the sites and realized that hedonism completely spoiled us for like swinger dating. Oh man, it felt so tedious and hard to meet with people and try to get everybody's expectations on the same page. So we quickly realized we do better when we travel, because then it feels like there's a certain expectation and everybody's traveling for the same thing. So we booked hedonism the next year for the same week and went back. And then travel to meet friends that we
visited
met.
our friend in Toronto. We made some really good friends in Texas and Arizona. And so, yeah, I would say that like being in an atmosphere where you can naturally be having fun and making friends, as opposed to this very like, let's figure out what restaurant we're going to go to. And you know, especially when you're in your own city, it's like, how much information do you exchange? What level of privacy do you have? Well, you're also trying to build intimacy, and you're trying to figure out, you know, do we even like these people over a bowl of chips at Chili's? Like, it's
well, and
it's hard.
And to be fair, right, the vacation swinging is sort of cheating in the sense that like, you don't have to like, oh, we're busy that day. You're busy. Oh, we got to get a babysitter. Oh, we're not feeling like, you're at a resort and that's what you're there for.
And most of the time you have a few days to like get to know that person before you make that decision if you want to.
You don't have to.
Yeah, and you can sit back and you can see them in action with other people. Like, is this somebody that I even want to be associated with? Like, how do they handle themselves when there's alcohol involved? Like, how do they handle themselves with consent? So yeah, you get, when you're into that atmosphere, it's like, your radar is on all the time.
Yeah. You get spoiled.
It's helpful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And so taking us to today, present time, COVID excluded, have you sort of fallen into that? You travel to visit people, or you go on vacations, and that's sort of your main outlet for meeting other people?
We've started to build a community locally too, just accidental meetings, or you know, someone will reach out to us on one of the sites that's interesting and then introduce us to their network. So it's like, at least someone has vetted them already. And I have no patience for that groundwork. So if someone else has done it, that's really
She
helpful.
likes like swinger Yelp reviews. Yeah. She likes a warm introduction, a referral, you know, it's like
maybe a discount code, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there a group rate?
One free blowjob, whatever it is. So yeah.
Yeah, one trial blowjob.
So yeah, we have just a couple local people that, you know, we're generally good friends with, but I would say we stay in contact with a lot of the people that we went to hedonism with. We got a big chat group, a few friends that we've got scattered around the country that we visited. We Zoom game nights and, you know, whatever we're doing to keep our spirits up, because we've had, you know, like everybody, trips canceled that were rescheduled that are canceled again. And so we're just trying to, this is really rough for non-monogamous people. And we can't just, you know, scream it out into the real world, because
no one
doesn't work that way. Yeah, no one has sympathy. Oh, you had sex with a bunch of people and now you can't win.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Swinger problems, for sure.
First world swinger problems, exactly.
Exactly.
I only have to have sex with my wife. Ugh.
Wow.
We've explored like the ideas of solo dating too, and to try and shortcut that 4-way connection, but COVID has just messed everything up. So that's a possibility. We have some regular friends that have joined our ranks on occasion. So, you know, we just stay open to whatever life is going to bring us. And it's kind of nice to not operate under any rules or assumptions of how it has to be. We kind of take everything as it comes up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a wonderful way to approach it too. Especially because like so much is unexpected, like this year.
It's brutal.
Yeah, the locusts will be here in September, so
don't joke.
Looking forward to it.
Hey, they had a hurricane in Iowa, so anything can
there you go. So how do you two keep yourself safe? I know that's a big thing that people obviously struggle with, right? It can be scary. You're introducing potentially a lot of new risk. How do you two handle that?
Yeah, there's lots of risks. Like there's pure sexual safety, right? So for that, we get tested. In a normal world, at least one of us is getting tested every 3 months. We use your discount code.
Thank you.
For that, stbcheck.com. And we use condoms for penetrative sex, and we discuss, you know, barriers or sanitation otherwise. Then there's physical safety. If you end up in a room where you don't know everyone, things can go ugly fast. So we just try to stay communicative between the two of us, or someone always knows where we are and who we're with. A bailout factor. And
yeah, I think we're just trying to set the groundwork for if we do the individual piece, as much as I like to say, she's a big girl and she can handle herself, you always care about your partner. And so you just want to make sure that, she's safe. And so whether that's she feels more comfortable sending me your location or having a safe word or me meeting whoever she's going to have, or that we're kind of open to whatever makes each other feel safe as we build those systems, and we're better off on our own in the future.
Yeah.
I think there's like a mental health, emotional safety too, right? Because we taught our relationship's a big base for us. So therapy together and separately, or men's groups too, we think that's a really important element of safety, because that's half your security, at least in this is.
Yeah, it's everything leading up to the event.
Yeah. Like you said, the sex is 6 seconds, to 18 hours. Somewhere in there.
6 seconds. Come on now. You're giving me a bad name.
No, it's
at least 12.
as long as it needs to.
Yeah.
Yeah, use the code Brandon for the delay spray.
No, ladies. No.
So
I was just going to say thank you for the shout out on STD check and for using the code. And just a small plug there. Like, you use the service. Do you love it? Because honestly, this isn't just being a commercial, but like,
we really
it's
like
super kick ass. Like, you show up, you're in and out in like 5 minutes,
and you get results pretty fast.
And the next day, it's so kick ass.
And you don't have to have the conversation. Like, luckily, I have a doctor where I can have the conversation. I think she's a little bit interested in this whole idea of the lifestyle, but you don't have to have that conversation with STD check. No one's saying, why are you doing this again? Aren't you married? It's just, you get what you need. You get something on your phone that you can show potential partners. Super fast, super easy. Yeah. Agreed.
Well, thank you for verifying what we always thought.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
And so you were going to ask a question before I interrupted you to shamelessly plug one of our affiliates.
That was a good plug, but
that's what she said.
it's obvious.
We don't.
Yeah, we don't know. No, I'm not discriminating.
Right? So you have shared this with some of your friends, obviously, because you've played with some of them. But have you shared it more than that to other friends and family?
It's limited friends. It's really limited. If it were up to me, probably everyone would know.
So yeah, I think Sophie, some of those like serial killer shows where you're like, the serial killer wanted to get caught. They left clues. They returned to the scene of the crime. That's her. Like, I think she secretly wants to blow our life up, and she's just like, I might accidentally send an itinerary to my mom, or something like that. And I was like, you did not accidentally do it. So I feel like I'm the break in that regard of just keeping this whole thing together.
But so we're not out officially.
No.
Yeah.
But now when you go to Hito, you book your mom at Sandals right down the beach so she can like walk in and say, hey.
Well, that's the secret. We usually get a group of people together, and you walk over to Sandals and you take pictures in front of their boats and their walls and everything like that. And it's like, now we know if the boats are a certain way in the background, you know exactly where that picture is being taken from. You can tell if someone's actually at Sandals or not.
Posing.
yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
But general public wouldn't be able to tell.
Yeah.
I mean, if we said it, I don't feel like it's a terrible leap for most people that know us, but there is something about like just the announcement or the fact that it is an official that confirms it that I think that's a leap we're not ready to make yet.
Yeah, sure. That's fair.
Sure.
How about a blooper? Do you have another question?
I do, but I'll wait till after the blooper question.
Okay. Which?
You don't have to say which. Just show them all. That's fine.
We got lots.
Well, when you go 0 to 60, sometimes there's a blooper at the end. So we call them. We call them speed bumps. There's some speed bumps.
I have one of my favorite funny stories is at Hedonism, we were playing with a couple. We had a hot tub room, and the other husband and I were still in the hot tub, and Brandon and that guy's wife were inside the room. And I am maybe otherwise engaged, and I start to hear this huge applause and cheersing happening and screaming. And I turn around, and there's a glass bottom boat tour that's pulled up on the shore and watching everything. And they are cheersing and applauding. And we laugh and we go inside. And Brandon and the wife are like, what was all that cheersing about? And we're like, oh, that was for us. We put on a nice show. But those people on the glass bottom boat tour got a show that they probably did not expect to have that day.
I was going to say that wasn't a glass bottom boat tour from Hedo. That was
from Sandals or one of those family resorts. There's definitely a lot of people that were having their eyes covered by somebody else.
Look through the bottom of the boat, Billy.
Yeah, right.
Eyes on the water.
Let's see. I think the only other thing that I can think of is so we're also fans of playtime earlier in the day because we realize we're not night owls. I think someone once joked that it's down and dirty by 10:30, and so we actually we created an entire playlist that it's titled "Down and Dirty by 10:30," and with potential people we'll kind of we're like, hey, we made this fun playlist, check it out, and it's kind of like this subtle hint of we're not going to be up till 3 a.m. because then we're wrecked the next day. And so we're playing it in the room, and somehow amongst the rustling, the button gets hit that changes the station. And instead of this really sultry, sexy music, the Monkees come on. Like that old 60s band.
Yeah.
It's hey, we're the Monkees. And we're we lost it. It's just everybody lost it. And somebody that's sitting next to me was going down on somebody, and she attempted to play his penis like a kazoo, and she hummed into it. And we never finished because everybody was laughing so hard that it killed the mood, but in the best way. And so we still laugh about it today, and we send each other the Monkees gifts every 3 or 6 months. We'll just get one back or forth that we all get to relive it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it inspires another blooper on our behalf. All right, I'll share it really quick. Why not?
We have a similar music blooper.
So we're not known for our hip music curation. So before we went to Desire, our last trip back in 2018, I went and downloaded some songs that I thought they were of a Pandora station that I had listened to, the same artist. I was like, well, if they made 1 or 2 songs that are sexy, they must all be sexy.
We didn't vet them.
Mistake.
So I didn't listen to them all. I was just let's throw them on the playlist. And then we were in let's call it a group situation. There was 8 to 10 people in the room ish. And the playlist was going, and we weren't paying attention, but 2 of our really good friends were kind of on the outskirts watching everything. And they started laughing so hard that they had to leave, and they just left because they couldn't be there anymore. And apparently one of the songs, they described it as whale noises.
It was just whale songs.
It wasn't purely whale noises, but they couldn't handle it, so they had to leave. And now every time,
no, were you playing the song from the ASPCA commercials?
No. Yeah. The arms of an angel.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm picturing Finding Nemo, Dory going, no.
Yes, that's what it was.
It was
more
much more transcendental. It was very soothing.
No, but we have since listened to that song, and it was definitely
it's a little whale but
whale song.
I think they were the only ones who got it because they weren't in the throes of.
They were listening. No one else was listening to the music.
So anyway, we
have to keep that one in there, and you have to use that as a litmus test because when it comes on, now you get to see what your partners or partner how they respond, and so I think throwing those little surprises in is what keeps it from being super serious. And if they can laugh in the middle of sex, that's our best times that we've had is when there's something funny that happens and we all laugh, and that's way better than like
serious.
Yeah, super serious.
Yeah, we couldn't agree more on that for sure. I know we're getting kind of close to the hour mark here, but I had a couple of other questions, because I think, hearing your trajectory there's been some trauma in there. There's been some uncertainty. And I guess maybe just hearing like how you two have seen your relationship grow and change, for the better in the last 3 years since it was official. But, even before that.
I think a major thing for us that we learned, keeping the peace in a relationship does not mean your relationship is doing well. There's this tendency to want to avoid conflict or avoid fighting or avoid sharing something might be uncomfortable. And we were both miserable when we were in peacekeeping mode. And so we are so much more honest and open with each other, and learning to live with just a little bit of uncomfortableness has enabled us to connect to each other on a deeper level. It's more fun. And you never feel like you're walking on eggshells around your partner. So that sort of deep level of honesty and acceptance, I think, is beautiful in our relationship.
Well, it's not only the honesty, but it's being able to hear what the other person says. And a lot of times, like in a partnership, at least for me personally, it was when she would say something was bothering her, I would make it about me and I would take ownership. So if she's upset, it's obviously something that I am either doing or it's something that I can fix. And that's a little bit of like the guy side of things, is like, I'm going to fix it. So if she's sad, I'm going to fix it. If she's happy, I'm obviously doing something good. Let's just keep the status quo. And so it's both allowing her to feel what she's feeling and having it be okay, and me not trying to fix it. And from my end is recognizing that she can have all of these feelings and issues, and it's not necessarily about me and a reflection of my worth as a person and a partner. And so that's really allowed us to both, to be able to speak and to be able to feel like we're both heard.
Yeah. No, that's super sage advice.
Mm-hmm. I'm over here listening and I'm like, yeah. Like, we all
and she's elbowing me in the face.
Exactly.
Like, listen to this asshole.
But we fight. So sometimes we look at some of our friends and we're like, oh, they don't seem to have any conflict. What's going on there? And this is not a knock against any of our friends or anyone living this way, but a lot of it is because they've got a script to follow, right? There's a societal script. They're doing what society says is easy and normal, and there's not a lot of conflict on that path.
Keep the peace. Happy wife, happy life. Just shut up if things are going well. Like, I don't know. Average is... Who aspires to be average? I don't know. That just doesn't seem very fun to me.
Where's the excitement in that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of it, that maybe the last question I had was, is there something that either of you, or what are some of the things that either of you are really looking forward to and excited to do that you haven't gotten to explore yet?
I feel like we've done a pretty good job of checking off our bucket list already.
Yeah.
I would say one, and the pandemic has messed with this a little bit, but I was looking forward. You hear a lot about a gangbang where there's a single female and lots of males. And I was kind of hoping to plan the reverse for him at Hito this year, where it's like every, high school guy's dream of one dude and lots of women. And places like Hedonism and Desire are cool places to organize those kinds of things. So that's on my future fantasy list.
Use code Brandon for delay spray. Just spray it all over my body. Just. I think the other thing. Yeah, exactly. Whole body delay spray.
New sponsor. First, we need to invent the product, though.
I think the other thing we're talking about is along the lines of disintegration, is being able to more pursue things on our own, and to be able to find the things that we're really liking without having to worry so much about a partner and dealing with that energy and maybe the 4-way connection or 3-way connection. It's like we can just kind of do our own thing a little bit.
Yeah.
So
perfect. Well, thank you for sharing that and for sharing everything. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you have to get out there before we let you head over and get your snow pants on?
I don't think so. No. I mean, I would say anyone that's like thinking about putting a toe in, think about getting into a pool, right? Sometimes if you put a toe in or you get up to where it starts to get really uncomfortable, like it takes a long time and there's a lot more agony getting slowly into the pool than just jumping in the pool. So sometimes you can overthink things, and we are pretty analytical and we're in danger of overthinking things sometimes. But what we found works for us is just jumping in the pool. And if you know how to swim, just jump in the pool and you have a lot less agony to deal with on the way in. So,
well, you can always get out.
Yes. Yeah. You can always get back out of the pool. Be careful when your over analysis gets to like real hesitation. That would be my only advice, because there was a moment when we were ready to book keto where we could have thought about that decision for another year, but we've had so much fun in that time because we didn't over agonize.
Ready, fire, aim. Yeah. If I can put in 3 words, ready, fire, aim.
Perfect. Well,
another tagline.
Yeah. Thank you both for sharing and for the laughs. It's been a delight chatting with you and getting to know you. And, not to ruin it, but we chatted with you briefly last night at our meet and greet. So another shameless, but you guys are like walking sponsors for everything that we stand for.
Yeah. Do you want us to plug that right now? If you are thinking about joining one of these meet and greets, do it. There is a huge diversity of people on those shows. So, there were people alone, there were people that were partnered, there were people experienced in non-monogamy, there were people that were thinking about it, every level. So a lot of fun questions. It's Zoom and virtual, so really low risk. There's no expectation. So if you're thinking about joining one of those, it's the kiddie pool. Jump right in.
With arm floaties even. So you don't have to like sit there and try to think of stuff to say. Like they give you questions to talk about. And so it's not only nice to get a lot of different perspectives, but if you're new, like you'll see people there's definitely people that have been through whatever you're worried about or whatever you're, coming up against. Cause I think a lot of us deal with the same issues and the same problems. And so there's no need to reinvent the wheel. Just learn from somebody else.
Yeah.
Well, learn from our mistakes.
Yeah.
Learn from their mistakes. Well, thank you for that. We seriously appreciate it. And
we have a blast with them as well. Like it's so fun meeting all of you and having that chance to talk. And I know it's all virtual, but it's better than not doing it. So it's fun to meet everyone.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you for everything. And it was wonderful getting to know you two better. And hopefully this isn't the last time we see your faces.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thanks for everything you guys do. We certainly listen to your podcast nonstop as we were getting into this. So thank you for your part in our journey.
Happy to do it.
Welcome.
So thank you. And it doesn't exist without people like you. So that's the last shameless plug to come on the show if you're even thinking about it, because everybody's story helps somebody.
Yeah. So. No, it for sure does. And thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening and we'll be in touch.
You too.
And we're back. Thank you so much to Sophie and Brandon for reaching out to us, coming on the show, being vulnerable, and dropping all those truth bombs. I like to call them truth bombs. You like
truth bombs? Yeah, we've done this in this outro 3 times.
And I keep using that term.
Yeah. So they must be seriously truth bombastic.
Yeah, sure. I like that too.
Again, thank you, Sophie and Brandon. And thank you for plugging some of the things that we promote on the show. Anyone listening, they were not paid to promote those things. So
no.
So that was just out of the kindness of their heart, and that they actually use STD Check and actually came to the meet and greet.
Yes,
So
it's encouraging.
It is. So thank you for that. And for any of the other things that were mentioned, some of the other resorts or services that they've talked about, you can find all of the information that they discussed, plus all of our previous guests' resources will be in the show notes, which you can find at
normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Click on the podcast tab. I was going to say page, but tab.
It's also a page. So,
Yes.
Yes. So everything that we ever talk about on the show is there, plus pictures of a lot of our guests and anything else that seems exciting we throw in there.
Yes. You can also contact us on our website. Go and leave us a voicemail or send us an email. We'd love to hear from you, especially if you want to come on the show or if you have any questions, please reach out to us.
And one final thank you to our sponsor today, Alt Playground. Again, if you are looking to meet open-minded, non-monogamous, exploring type people,
Go check it out.
We recommend altplayground.net. You can get there through our website or straight to their website.
And again, our website is normalizingnonmonogamy.com, just in case you forgot.
Just in case. I don't know how they could forget. They'll probably fall asleep hearing you say that.
I know. It does have a ring to it once you say it enough, though.
Yeah, and it's super short.
Yeah. Well, to be clear, you could also do nnmpodcast.com.
Or you could just click in the links in your podcast player.
That would be even easier.
Next week, let's stop rambling because
We have an interview
next week soon.
We have an interview with Marie, and this one, super powerful.
Again, yeah, I don't know what it is. It's almost like people sharing their stories is powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you to Marie. Thank you to
Sophie and Brandon.
Sophie and Brandon.
Did you almost figure out who you're talking about?
No. I didn't. I'm going to edit that space out there where I didn't seem to remember, so no one will know.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and thank you to everybody for listening, for being a part of the Patreon community, for potentially joining it, and for being amazing people in the world and wearing masks so we can be done with this virus sooner.
Yes. Thank you.
Go have a wonderful Wednesday. It's Sunday here. It's Wednesday for you.
Thank you again. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next week.